Hi, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Friday, August 14th, 2025, and it's 8:02 a.m. here in Chicago. So, 2 days ago, a guy here in Chicago was killed. He was robbed and shot dead right while he was on live on social media. Now, this has happened in other cities too, because I remember seeing, people killed right on live social media in other cities. It's not just Chicago. This happens in most of these major cities or cities, any city. But it has happened in other cities. But this one was in Chicago. And he was sitting in his car doing a live show, and he got approached. The guy wanted his chain. I'm going to assume it was him who said, hell nah. And you could hear he was like putting up some type of resistance. And then you heard the gunshot. He got killed too. He died. And so, that's really, really sad, That's really sad. So I feel really bad for his family, But one guy made a video basically saying, give up the chain, especially if the guy said, man, just give up the chain. Because I didn't hear it. I'm going to say I didn't hear it. I could go back and listen. But according to the guy who made this reaction video, he said the robber said, just give up the chain. And maybe that's why I heard hell nah. Then you hear pop, So the guy who made the reaction video was basically saying how he doesn't think it was the robber's intention to kill him. Now, I'm not going to go that far and give him no pass like that. Like, I don't think he meant to kill him. He absolutely meant to kill him if you don't give that shit up. That doesn't make you any less of a killer. That does not make you any less of a killer. We're talking about a chain. The guy didn't want to give up the chain, and he was ready to end your life. And he did end your life. So don't you dare give him a pass and say it wasn't his intention, But on the same token, I understand what the guy who did the reaction means. His point, he probably agrees with what I just said. The point he was making was, we're talking life or death here. Give up the chain. At least this man sounded, we don't know for sure, but at least this man sounded as though he would have spared his life had he given up the chain. Now, he didn't just, leave without the chain because the man was going to put up a fight. He absolutely killed him. So to me, he's just as vicious. That's why I know it sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but saying, he would have spared his life had he given up the chain, that's okay to say. But don't say, I don't think it was his intention. That's very offensive to the dead, Yeah, he might have spared his life. He said, just give up the chain. But we're not going to talk about what his intentions were, because at the end of the day, he killed a man. So then I go in the comments and I read a few comments, and one lady did say, intentions or not, it didn't belong to him and he killed him. And I agree with that, but we're talking life or death here, And so you really do have to think really quick and think of the bigger picture, Do I want to live or do I want to die? And you don't know if you're going to live just because you give it up. But you definitely will always have a greater chance of living if you give it up, So another comment quoted Tupac and basically said, if you're not willing to die as a man, then you're not a man, or something like that. I know the song, but I forgot the quote. But it was something basically saying, you got to go out like a man and die like a man, then live like a coward, or something like that. And my response to that is, we're not talking about chains and watches and handbags. We're not talking about things like that. when you talk about what Tupac is saying. I don't know what Tupac meant, but I'm telling you what I meant. To me, if Tupac says, live like a man over dying like a coward, giving up a chain is not dying like a coward. I mean, living like a coward. Giving up a chain is not living like a coward. Giving up a watch, getting up out of your car is not living like a coward. Watching somebody take your mother to a second location as she's getting kidnapped, or watching somebody snatch a child, or watching somebody, harm someone you love, that's cowardly. Now that I understand if somebody dies for. You're not going to stand there and let somebody, kidnap your mama. You're not going to stand there and watch somebody kidnap a child, or your brother, or your sister, or your father. You're not going to stand there and let that happen. To me, that's what that means, Tupac's quote. You fight. And even for your own life, never let, if someone ever does try and kidnap you, even with a gun to you, you don't let them ever take you to a second location. They're going to have to kill you. Don't let nobody take you to no second location. Don't let nobody put a gun to you and say, get in the back of this van. Hell no. That's when you say, hell nah. Like that guy told the robber. That's when you say, hell nah, you just got to kill me. No second locations. It must be my time if I can't fight and win. But a chain or something like that, give it up. And even if it has very sentimental value, let's say it was passed down from your great-grandmother, or it was passed down from your mother, or God forbid, let's say it was your deceased son. Maybe he had a teenage son or something, and let's say that chain looked too expensive, but let's say it was someone who is deceased and it belonged to him. That would be extremely sentimental. But what's more sentimental than all of that is the life that God gave you. And don't start putting Tupac quotes to fit into a situation where a man was really fighting over a chain and unfortunately lost his life. I would apply the Tupac comment to somebody who is dying for something that you should be willing to die for. That's just my opinion. But I'm not judging any man who would put up a fight, whether it's for their watch or their chain or their diamond earring stud or their car. I'm not putting any judgment on any man who says, hell nah, he got to kill me because I'm going to try to kill him. I'm not judging because I don't know what manhood feels like to a man. You know what I mean. But from the outside looking in, I say give up the chain and live, Oh, I just thought of something. Perfect example, you guys. Perfect example. Even though it's just a show. What was that show that I loved? Oh my God, I drew a blank. The HBO series, The Wire. The one that takes place in Baltimore. When Omar robbed Marlo for the first time, Omar had that gun all up in Marlo's face. What did Marlo do? He gave up that ring, didn't he? He chose to live. He gave up that ring. Now, he did tell Marlo, it ain't over. This ain't over. And Omar said, well, that's just how you want to play it then. But at the end of the day, Marlo, one of the baddest men on the planet in terms of street life, he gave up that ring and saved his life. And look, the show even ends The show even ends with Marlo alive. The show even ends with Marlo alive and free. So, I don't think anybody saw that particular scene and said, damn, Marlo's not a man. Marlo's not a man. Nobody said that. You know, that's just an example. So I really feel for that guy who died. And I really feel that he wouldn't just give up the chain, you know. I really feel for that, you know. Robbed him in broad daylight too, sun shining and everything. Chicago is a piece of work. But other cities are the same way. Other cities are the same way. People try to act like Chicago is this like hellhole with so much violence. How do you even go outside your door? No, there's violence everywhere. As a matter of fact, I don't even think Chicago is on the list of top 10 most violent cities. I really don't think it is. Because you have to consider the size too. And you have to consider the crime relative to the size, you know. This happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. I heard those cities in Mexico are no fucking joke. You guys go right now, and if you Google the top most dangerous cities in the world, let's say you Google top 25 or top 50 or whatever. You tell me how many Mexican cities are on that list. Like, god damn. Or even those Eastern European countries. But I haven't looked at them in a long time, in years. But I remember one time I was looking at the list of top most dangerous cities or most dangerous countries. And those Eastern European countries, like Ukraine and them, and I think it was like Latvia and Lithuania, you know, all those countries over there. I don't know if they broke off of Russia or if they were always independent. Some of them, I think, broke off of Russia. I think. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, when Lomachenko, one time Lomachenko made a comment. They asked him something. I forgot what they asked Loma. And he said, well, no, I chose not to respond because where I'm from, you handle something like that very differently. He wasn't lying. They do not fuck around over in Eastern Europe either. In Mexico, oh my God. So, I mean, and even in the United States, there are a lot of cities that are pretty damn bad. Worse than Chicago. I don't want to start naming people's cities, but I think St. Louis is on there, and Detroit is on there, and Memphis is on there. Another city in Michigan too. In terms of like projects, those projects in New York City are crazy. They'll rob you before you shit. They love to rob. They even make songs about robbing your ass in New York. So it's not just Chicago at all. But rest in peace to that man. Rest in peace to that man. That was really fucked up. Anyway, have a good day, everyone.